Oh my gosh. This is the video that I have been dreaming about making. Some kind of cooking, baking video in the new kitchen, and today it is happening. I had to think about what I wanted to cook, what I wanted to bake. I've been baking a lot. I've been baking a lot from my Alison Roman cookbook. I've been baking a lot from just like BBC Good Food, like Waitrose recipes, like things that I find online. But I thought today, for the first video, we should do something classic, do something special, and maybe do the recipe that has been viewed on my blog over 500,000 times. It might even be more than that. 528,530 times. That is wild. So it's got to be the cookie recipe. I haven't made the cookies for actually quite a while. I attempted to make them in our temporary kitchen, but the temporary oven was just so all over the shop that whenever I cooked them, they were like undercooked and burnt on the bottom and just a real mess. So hopefully today I can make them properly. We've got some landscapers in. It's also my friend's birthday, so like I've got people to give the cookies to. I really want to eat some cookies as well. So let's take a little walk down memory lane and yeah, christen the kitchen with its first ever baking video. And I really hope to do more of these. So if there's any more recipes or like cooking in general, like if there's just any videos I can film in the kitchen, please let me know what you would like to see, because I would love to do more. This is my happy place. I was very happy to be reunited with this. Can go there. I haven't prepped either, so let's see how quickly these take to make, because I swear they are so easy, they are so quick, there's very minimal washing up involved. It is 5 to 12 at the moment. I reckon under 20 minutes. I'll link the recipe down below if you want to be the 520,000th whatever person to view it. I feel like this recipe works best with room temperature butter, but I forgot about that, so we're just using it straight from the fridge. I might just need to whiz it around in the KitchenAid for like a little bit longer, but you need 225 grams, that'll do, of unsalted butter. Then 200 grams of light brown muscovado sugar. I haven't got that right now, so I'm just using light brown soft sugar. I do it straight into the bowl that I'm mixing the butter and sugar together in, just to save on washing up. Then it's 100 grams of golden caster sugar or just normal caster sugar. So that's gonna go straight in. I'm also gonna preheat my oven to 200 if fan assisted. If not, you set it to 220, that's gas mark 7 or 425 Fahrenheit. You wouldn't normally need to set the oven at this point because the cookies do need to be put in the freezer either overnight or for like at least 30 minutes. But I'm doing a bit of like movie magic here, and I made a batch yesterday that are in the freezer. So once these are cooked, I'm gonna be cooking them up straight away. Now this just gets beaten for like a good 4 to 5 minutes. You want it to be really creamy and like get paler in color, and it just looks like nice and whipped. You don't need a KitchenAid for this. You could easily just use one of these. I've got this hand mixer that's one of the oldest things in our kitchen. We first bought this when we moved into our London flat, and it's good. It's lasted a very long time. So sometimes I use that, or you can do it by hand. It takes a bit of elbow grease, but when I've been on holiday and I've really wanted to make these cookies, I have done it by hand, and it works. It just takes a bit of time. If you're with a group, you can like all take it in turns giving it a good stir. I'm gonna start off on low just because the butter is really cold and I don't want it to fly everywhere, but I'll turn up the speed a bit as we keep going. You need 2 medium eggs. Oh, 2, perfect. So I'm just gonna get those out of the fridge to come down to room temperature. Should have done that before we got started, but it'll be fine. Turning that up a bit more. Oh yeah, it's flying everywhere. Hopefully you can still hear me over the mixer. But I'm gonna prep all of the dry ingredients, and the first one is 360 grams of self-raising flour. It says 1 teaspoon of salt, but I'm just gonna like crack some in. Try not to go too crazy. Oh, it was half a teaspoon of salt. Okay, I didn't go too mad. And then 1 teaspoon of corn flour and 1 teaspoon of bicarbonate soda. That's your dry ingredients ready to go. Your eggs are ready to go. We're all lined up. I literally feel like I'm in a dream right now. I'm just gonna scrape down the sides. It's definitely getting there, but because the butter was quite hard, it's taking a bit longer, but that's fine. You really can't over mix at this stage. More mixing is better. Okay, it's getting there now. You can see the color. Do you see the color? It's going a little bit paler. I'm gonna give it like, I don't know, 2 more mins, high blast. I'll bring it close just so you can see, but it's definitely looking paler. There you go. And fluffier, and a little bit like that. Just a random circle. Okay, again, you can't overmix when you add the eggs. You just need 2 medium eggs. I'm gonna crack in 1. Risky business, because you never know if your egg is off. These are quite fresh. I'm gonna mix that in and again, wait till it gets like light and pale and fluffy and then add my second one. I'm gonna scrape down the sides before I add the next one. Oh, I wanna eat this so bad right now. Love cookie dough. Maybe even better than the end cooked result. Giving it another whirl in the KitchenAid. Okay, it completely changes here. It goes a lot paler, it starts to look a lot more whipped. That's what we're looking for. I genuinely think these cookies are like my favorite recipe ever. It's one that even like years later, I still get tagged on Instagram. People send me photos like weekly. I feel like it's become your go-to recipe as well, which is just so nice. So even though you probably know this recipe off by heart, just like take it as a reminder that it's a cracking recipe, like perfect way to spend a Sunday if you ask me. Okay, this is looking great. Let me show you. The texture has really changed. It's now very like light and whipped and fluffy. Just doing a lap again. When you add the flour mixture, all of the dry ingredients, you really don't want to overmix here. So whether you're doing it by hand or with a hand mixer or a stand mixer, you just want to add it until you can't see the flour anymore. But under mixing is really key here. The more you mix it, I think it's that the more you mix it, the more the gluten forms, and then that can make it like stiff and not very nice. So I'm just gonna add maybe half and give it a light mix. I'm really keeping an eye on it because 1 minute it looks like it hasn't mixed at all, and then the next minute you're like, oh, okay, it's completely gone. Like now, completely gone. Then add the other half. Perfect. I'm just gonna scrape that all out and scrape down the sides as well. Now you can add whatever you want to these cookies. You could do peanut cookies. You could do fruit and nut cookies. I mean, or you can do the classic, which is chocolate, which is personally my favorite. In the recipe on my blog, I've done it with hazelnuts. Actually, this is a good recipe. Chopped and toasted hazelnuts with milk chocolate. Today I'm gonna do dark chocolate. I don't know, I just fancied a dark chocolate cookie, but also on my blog, I've got the recipe for white chocolate and miso. If you like the cream cookies from London, that's one of their recipes. And oh my gosh, I just love that. It's a really unusual kind of sweet and savory mix. It's really, really good. I'm just gonna do dark chocolate. I haven't got any nuts or anything today, so I'm just going straight in with the dark chocolate. You need 300, oh God, it's gone everywhere. You need 350 grams. It's a lot. They're a very, very chocolatey cookie. And you're just gonna wanna roughly chop them. But yeah, whatever type of chocolate you fancy, whatever type of filling you fancy, in it goes. But you're just gonna want 350 grams of it. I'm going for quite chunky chocolate here. Obviously it kind of melts down. I don't use any special like baking chocolate. I just use the standard off-the-shelf chocolate. Oh my gosh, it's so chocolatey. How many times can I say chocolate? I'm just gonna do a quick tidy up of this chocolate into my mouth. So adding in your topping and then just giving it another mix. If you're using a stand mixer, you can just like continue to use it. But if you're using a hand mixer, or doing it by hand. Oh yeah, if you're doing it by hand, you're gonna be doing it by hand anyway. I'll say if you're using a hand mixer now, you would probably want to stir it in, and maybe you'd want to stir in the flour as well. I'm not gonna put this on for long, like literally maybe 10 seconds, just to mix it through, kind of crunches it up a little bit more. There you go, we're good. The battery exhausted just in time for me to take off the paddle attachment and eat it. But this is what your cookie dough is gonna look like. Now you tell me you don't wanna stick your face in that. I mean, look at that. It is the most perfect cookie dough. At this point, you're gonna wanna spoon it out onto a tray, a plate, something like that. It doesn't need to necessarily be non-stick or anything like that, because when you get them out of the freezer, they kind of just, you can like wiggle them around and they just come off anyway. But if you wanted to put like baking paper down, you definitely could. I personally like to use a cookie scoop for this. This was another one of those things I was really happy to be reunited with. But if you've got maybe like a tablespoon measure or a cup measure, you could use that. I mean, you could weigh them out if you wanted to get really specific about it. But I just feel like some kind of ice cream scoop, cookie scoop allows me to be a bit uniform with it and gives them a nice shape as well. This recipe makes 10 to 12 cookies. I'm gonna try and make 12. So they should fit all on this sheet. So I've got my 12 cookie mounds, but you wanna build them up. If you want that cookie that is high in the middle and gooey in the middle and a little bit kind of not 100% done, you're gonna wanna get some height on them. So I then go in with a second scoop, and my top tip is to not compact it down. So you want them high. So just pressing the mixture on top rather than like dumping it on, pushing it down. Oh, I think I'm gonna have the perfect amount. So your cookies will look a little something like that. And there's a nice amount in here to eat, quite honestly. It's not really enough for another cookie, but there's enough just to have a few cheeky little spoonfuls, which, oh, is my favorite. So this is now ready for the freezer. I know it is so annoying when you see a recipe and it's like, oh, now you need to freeze it. I would recommend freezing these for at least half an hour, but if you can do it overnight, like a full 24-hour stint, that is perfect. And I think you'll thank me. I'll be like, okay, fine, Anna, you were right. They just cook a little differently. You're more likely to get that kind of squidgy center, but you can like play around with cooking times, play around with freezing times. I'm gonna pop these in the freezer now and we're gonna have a bit of like, here's one I made earlier, movie magic. So I only had the ingredients for a half batch yesterday, so these look a little bit sad because there's only 6 of them. And I also didn't have the full amount of chocolate, so they're not 100% the same, but they're very, very similar. I think they had like 50 grams less the amount of chocolate in they were supposed to have. Oh, and by the way, it is 12:29. So that took me 35 minutes, but that is with me clearing up as I went, obviously like filming a YouTube video, which I don't normally do, and also the battery exhausting. And it was just a bit of a longer process because obviously this was making a bit of a racket in the background and I was trying to like talk through certain things. So it's quick, it's easy. This is normally where you take a bit of a break, but now I'm gonna show you how I cook them. You're gonna try and find the biggest baking tray that you've got because ultimately these cookies, number one, they can fall over, which is a little bit sad. When that happens, you don't want them to fall over. The way to stop that is to make sure that when you're putting them on top of each other, they really are like on top of each other, kind of pressing them down slightly so they become one, but obviously not pushing down on that height completely. You can always make them a little bit fatter on the bottom as well, and then make the top dollop a little bit thinner, but they just come off of the plate or whatever you've frozen them on and just pop them on a foil-lined baking tray. I worked this out one time when we went away on holiday and we wanted to make these cookies, and I just lined the tray with foil for some reason and they turned out really, really good. So I don't understand the science behind it. I don't understand why, but a foil lined tray seems to work better, and also it's like less mess and tidy up, so we love that. Make sure they are appropriately spaced apart from each other. This is the biggest tray that I have, and I would only make 6 on this. Like, you want a bit of space, they are gonna spread, and like I said, they might always fall off to the side. That is good. My oven is on 200, but there are some very specific instructions. So if you prefer your cookies to be firmer and crispier, then put your oven down to 180 and cook for 14 minutes. And I've written, again, keep an eye on them and adjust the cooking time to your personal taste. But the way that I normally do it is for 8 minutes, then I turn the tray around and bake for a further 4 minutes until the tops are golden. Now, we have a new oven that actually works, which we previously haven't had. So I might just check on them after 8 minutes. They might not need turning around. But you know what some ovens are like. Some ovens will cook like more on one side than the other. So it's very dependent on you, your oven, your personal taste, whether you like them really quite undercooked in the middle or whether you like a slightly more thinner, crispier cookie. So feel free to adjust. I'm gonna do the 8 minutes, check on it, see if it needs turning around, and then do the extra 4. And let's see how this goes. There we go. Here's the thing, they're not gonna look done. That's okay. You're looking for a very light kind of honey color vibe. I would bring them up so you could see them. Maybe I'll just tip them. Oh, that sounds like a terrible idea. Just a light toasting. Mine are a little bit burny around the sides, but I saw this thing online. Am I going to regret doing this? Oh, probably. Where you like put your cookie in the middle and you go like that and it makes it perfectly round. Maybe I'll just try it with one. It's just so slop, you know? Oh, okay. They're a little bit too big, and I think this is my biggest cookie cutter. Oh, I could use the cookie cutter holder. Oh, that's the perfect size. Oh my God, it's perfect. Sorry, you can't see a thing. Oh, you get to eat the scraps. I mean, this is a very over-the-top final step. You really don't need to do this. This is just me being a Virgo, quite frankly. Okay, but they're looking really good though now. Oh, they're looking really good. Hopefully you can kind of see what I'm doing, sort of. Kind of working to like trim off any additional crispy bits, and then it makes a perfect circle. Oh, I'm doing this with all my cookies from now on. This is probably the hardest part of the whole thing, which is leaving them on the baking tray for 20 minutes. They're kind of still cooking. They're almost doing a little slow cooking number. They're just firming up a little bit. So you've got to leave them on the tray, because if you try to take this off the tray right now, you're just gonna get pure slop. Right, let me just continue my circle cutting experiment. I was actually transforming them. They look very professional now. I guess you wanna do this whilst they're still hot because they're a bit more malleable, otherwise they're going to be a bit crispy later on. Okay, let me show you the fruits of my labour now. They're all kind of perfectly circular. Oh. Can you see? That was a good little thing. Maybe if you just got like a jar or a container, and if you just want them to have that really perfect circular shape, that was a really, really good way of doing it actually, because before they were all a bit like molded into each other and not necessarily the prettiest, whereas now I would say they're pretty pretty. But let's leave them. Mark and I are going to eat some lunch and then we'll come back for lunchtime dessert. The sun is out. Mark is making a fry up for his lunch. I'm not a fan of the mushrooms, but the rest of it interests me.
Yeah, you can have, oh, you want some?
I'm thinking about it. But I know what I'm definitely going to have afterwards.
Cookies!
Cookies, let me bring them close so you can see. Look at those. I'm going to take the one off at the top. To be fair, these could probably do with like 10 more minutes because like, look at this. Oh, yeah, but like, is there such a thing as like too gooey in the middle? I don't believe so. Right, that one's mine. And I'll sort the rest of these out for that's for me.
Oh.
That's my one. But I hope you enjoyed that. I really, really, really enjoyed this. I kept saying, I was like, this is like, feels like a dream. I can't believe that we're actually in here. And even though there is still a list of things to do, it feels really fun to do this. And they turned out good. It's like the first time I've made good cookies in like basically a year. So
I haven't got to try them yet, so I'm sure they're great though.
Okay, why don't you go for that one?
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Have a bit?
Oh, what does the bottom look like?
Really good.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah. Okay, good.
Oh, yeah.
They're good. I did dark chocolate ones this time. Right, I'm going to take 2 out for the guys, 2 out to my friend, and yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed making it, and I hope it serves as a reminder to make the best darn cookie recipe in the world. 500,000 people can't be wrong. Anyway, see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.